Well, folks, at this point in time, we want to welcome back to the show a guy who's been here so many times before with Story Time with the Tennessee Stud. He has his own podcast, the Studcast. He has Patreon. He has all these type of things that Brian Last's going to go over with us, especially later on so we get all the details right. But joining us again to promote an event coming up in Dothan, Alabama at the end of November. It's going to be on November 23rd, Saturday night in Dothan, a tribute to Bullet Bob Armstrong. Here he is, the Tennessee Stud himself, Ron Fuller. Ron, welcome back.
Well, thank you very much, Jim. It's a pleasure to be back, man. And before we get to jumping into this, I got to congratulate you, man. I hear you just knocking them to crazy now, man. You got your podcasts are just records week after week, and you're there on NWA now, and you're becoming my hero, man. You know, man.
What? You're talking to Brian Last. He's revealing all these record numbers, making me sound good. That's what it is.
No, but it's a pleasure to be with you, man.
Well, hey, we got to see each other for a second in Charlotte at the gathering, the big fan fest down there in August, and you and Robert were there, and my God, I felt like I was Cowboy Lang standing next to the two of you guys. The Welch genes grow straight up, I'll tell you that. But you are back. You've got it in your genes. You're a promoter, and you're back promoting an event, and it's a tremendous event for a tremendous person. And we just mentioned it a few minutes ago, but Saturday night, November 23rd, in Dothan, at the crossings at Big Creek. It's down there for the folks who know Dothan. It's on Highway 231 south of town. It's a great facility, and you're promoting an event that's a tribute to one of the most legendary figures in wrestling. Not only that, but especially in Southern wrestling, in Continental and Southeastern, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, Georgia Championship Wrestling, Bullet Bob Armstrong.
Right.
And you're going to be there, and the old Continental announcer, Charlie Platt's going to be there. Of course, Brian Armstrong, Road Dogg, is going to be there. You never know which Armstrongs may show up. There's so many of them, and they can all work their ass off. And the guest of honor of the whole thing is going to be Bullet Bob. He just celebrated not only his 80th birthday, but 60 years in the professional wrestling ring, and just a tremendous legacy. And you've got promoting in your genes. You have from the time you were 2 feet tall when you were born. I assume you were about 2.5, 3 feet tall maybe when you were born, because you've got it in the family. But this is a different kind of event. It's a meet and greet. It's a celebration where you're going to show videos on the big screen of Bob, and not only of Bob, but also of superstar friends of his and stars from around the world that are cutting promos. And it's going to be kind of a multimedia event. What gave you the idea to do this, and are you looking forward to it? That's a dumb question. I know you are.
Yeah, I am definitely looking forward to it. And it was kind of Charlie Platt's idea, and he talked to me about it. I said, geez, Charlie, that's a great idea. I mean, and you couldn't do a tribute to a better guy. I mean, like you said, you mentioned a lot of territories Bob Armstrong's been in, and, he's one of the sport's greatest. And we wanted to do something for him because he is 80 years old. And, you never know anymore about how things are going to go down. So we just felt like this would be a great tribute to Bob, and we're just really excited about it. Fans' reactions around that area there has been really good for it. And, we've got some tickets. They can get some tickets in advance there if they want to. If they want to get tickets in advance, there's 2 places they can get them. One is at Event, EVENT, Bright, BRITE, Eventbrite.com, or the CrossingsBigCreek.com. Individual seats, $30, and if you buy 2, they're $50. And obviously, there'll be sales at the door as well. But really looking forward to it. We put a lot of time in it. We've talked to so many guys from all around the world, basically, that are going to be cutting us some promos. Just some little tribute to Bob and sending in some stories. And it'll just be a night of a lot of memories for fans that come, a lot of laughter. There's going to be a lot of jokes, obviously, as there always are in wrestling events. And a lot of love in that building, too, because Bob is just, he's so he's a totally different individual than most wrestlers, and he just really the fans even loved him when he was a heel, and and he was a tremendous heel.
You tried that, and he as a heel, he was a tremendous performer, but the people still wouldn't like him even as a heel because it was Bullet, right?
Oh yeah, and he had his Fannie Mae Titweiler, and I mean, he had something coming on, something happening every week, and he's just a tremendous talent, and I'd like to invite anybody in that area that can work their way down there, and that please come see this, because I just think this event is going to be spectacular, and it's in a beautiful facility. It's a ballroom. It'll be a great event. We're thinking about DVDing it, making a video of it, and maybe sometime we'll be able to get that video out. But we just really want to get this done for Bob, and he doesn't even know about the wrestler thing. So I think that will really surprise him when we start taking these different wrestlers and showing these segments, people saying hello to him. So,
well, that whole area, Ron, down in, as you know well, down in the Gulf Coast and the Florida Panhandle, and Bullet Bob was the top guy, and especially a top baby face in a lot of years, where the local top babyface was the biggest sports hero in town of any professional sport. And it wasn't just like you were rooting for the guy. It was a member of the family. The Rock and Roll Express got the same treatment as did all the Southern baby faces. Their picture was up on the wall next to Jesus, right? And yeah. Whichever president was in office at the time.
Yes.
And so, a lot of these fans that loved Bob and got a chance to see him wrestle down there at the Dothan, what was it, the Houston County Farm Center?
Yep.
With the dirt floor. They got a chance to see him wrestle, but they never got a chance unless they hung out back in the parking lot to meet him or talk to him. And this is what's great about these fan fests these days, is now the people who remember seeing these guys wrestle can bring their kids to meet them and talk to them. And it's a family deal. Anyway, that's Saturday night, November 23rd. And as you said, eventbrite.com. or crossingsbigcreek.com, right, for the advance tickets.
Yeah, the crossingsbigcreek.com, yes.
And I'm going to see if I can figure out my technological shortcomings to be one of the folks that contribute videos. But when you think about the impact that Bullet has had on wrestling, not only himself and being active in the ring all those years, and I guess he wrestled in, I haven't even counted them, was it 7 different decades? And having a career like that where he was always on top for so long, but also through his sons. Even now, Scott's refereeing in the WWE. Road Dogg was a huge star, member of DX. All the sons carried on, and they helped train and break in other guys. Even if Steve Armstrong wasn't necessarily the level of star of Stone Cold Steve Austin, he worked with and helped a lot of guys. So the Armstrongs had a great reach in wrestling and still do, as Brian is on top as a, what do they call, producers, agents, creative, whatever these days. So Bullet started that whole Armstrong legacy. It's great to see him honored. Hey, on your Studcast, you tell all kinds of stories from 70 years of the Welch family and the Fuller family in wrestling. You got to have a good one about Bullet to give us here today.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah. I've got a good one. Bullet was always horrified of snakes, like a lot of people. Yeah. And guys like to rib him big time about it. And one time they were working, Rob and Bullet were working in Savannah. And they somehow, it must have been a Sunday afternoon or something, and they had to fly back to Atlanta right after the matches. And they got out of the dressing room in Savannah, and they didn't have long. They were going to fly, and a couple of the girls at the arena there said, yeah, we'll drive you out to the airport. They were needing a ride anyway. So Bob's in the backseat of the car, and he didn't have a time to put his shirt on. He's still sweating. I don't know if they even had time to take a shower. But they stop at this little country store, and they put a gas in the car. The girl's gassing up her car. And Bob's sitting in the back seat, and Rob goes in to buy him beer, as always for Rob. And he finds in there one of those little plastic snakes about 18 inches long, right? And So he buys it. Now Bob's in the back seat of this car, the girl's car, and Bob's never met the girl. They don't really even know her. Rob knows who the girl is, but she's nice enough to take him to the airport. Bob's in the back, and he's got the windows down. She's having a problem with her air conditioner. He's got an old car, I guess. And so Bob's got his window down. He has no shirt on or anything. And Rob comes back from buying his beer, and he just comes by the window where Bob's got it down, and he pitches this snake in on Bob's chest. So Bob starts screaming, ah! And he grabs the snake and he throws it up in the air. But when it does, it hits the roof of the car and it just falls back on him. And because he's sweating, it sticks to him. He can't hardly pull it off of him, right? So he's screaming and he's just going nuts in the back seat. And then finally he starts kicking the back seat of this girl's of her car. And he walks himself up her back seat of her car, and his feet are on top of the roof of the car now. And now the snake is in his face. I mean, he throws it down, and once it goes out on the ground, Rob grabs it and throws it back in on him. And this went on for about 2 minutes, and then he kicks the front seat of her car. He breaks the bolts that connect it to the floor of her car. So he destroys her car because of this plastic snake, and Rob said the girl couldn't hardly drive. He had to drive the rest of the way to the airport. Bob had to put his feet on the back of her seat to keep it in the right position so that Rob could drive it till he got So he just, he was great. I had another one for him one time. I gave him a birthday present one year. And I found this real nice box. It was like a shoe box, and I wrap it all up. But underneath the lid of the box, I had bought one of those snakes about the same size, and I had stapled it to the box top so that when he removed the box to see what was in it, the snake's going to be right there. And I made the mistake. He's visiting me at my house, and he's sitting on my couch, and there's a coffee table right in front of him. And I say, Bob, I got you a birthday present, man, and I set the box down. Oh, Ron, he is, that's real nice of you, Ron. I said, yeah, open it up, man. Oh, no, wait. I said, no, go ahead and open it up. So he finally opens it up. And he pulls that box top off, and that snake is there. Oh, he throws the box up in the air. He kicked I had a glass coffee table. He kicked the glass out of my coffee table. Just destroyed my coffee table. Was running all over my living room. I'm like, Bob, come on, Bob, stop. It's just a toy. It's just a toy. So.
I can testify, ladies and gentlemen of the listening public, that Ron Fuller's stories are all true, but in this case, they're overly true because it was legendary all the way up into Knoxville to Smoky Mountain Wrestling that Bob Armstrong's reactions to snakes are what he believes are snakes. And I don't know why the boys always thought it was a good idea to get an ex-Marine, a bodybuilder with a bench press of hundreds of pounds and explosive striking power in an enclosed space and then convince them that they are being assaulted by their worst fear. Because one night, it's just a high school gym of the bathroom, right? The stalls, the old high school gym bathroom stall where you got the door and then you got the stall on either side of it, right? It doesn't go all the way up, doesn't go all the way down, but it's got the framework. And one night, Bullet Bob's in there, taking a promoter and sitting on the toilet. And those stretchy, the tube exercising things that the boys used to have, where it's a stretch tube and it's a long rubber tube, and they'd stand on it and they'd do their arm flexes, right? And stretch this thing. It's a warm-up thing. Well, somebody just grabs that thing and bundles it up and walks over to the side of the stall and throws it over the top and yells snake at the same time. And it looked like a cartoon. Both of the sides of the stall and the door blew out all at the same time, down to the ground. And there was Bob wrestling that goddamn that stretchy exercise.
It's not even a
Get it off of me. Get it off of me. It's like Bobby Eaton's sick stomach when you can dump Colonel Sanders chicken gravy out in front of him and tell him it's baby shit and he'll vomit, even though he knows what it is. It's amazing. But anyway, those kind of stories and more not only can be heard on the Studcast, but will be heard at the tribute to Bullet Bob Armstrong in Dothan on November 23rd. Brian, you've been quiet. You're a little sick boy over there. Tell the folks how they can listen and subscribe and do everything they need to do for Ron's Studcast.
You can find the Studcast each and every week wherever it is that you find your favorite podcast. Of course, it is Ron Fuller talking about the history of Southern wrestling, the history of the Welch family in wrestling, and the history of Southeastern and Continental wrestling. And we even now have some classic audio that we're incorporating into the shows. We encourage you to check out Ron Fuller's Studcast each and every week. And also want to make mention of the Super Studcast, available for patrons of the Studcast for only $2.99 a month. You get in the door at patreon.com/Studcast. And actually, Jim, the latest edition of the Super Studcast, 90 minutes with Dr. Tom Pritchard. And this is some extraordinary stuff because we talk not just about Continental and Knoxville, but about his growing up in the Houston wrestling office. So if you're a wrestling historian, you're really going to love this episode.
And do you know how much money you normally would have to pay for 90 minutes with the doctor?
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, it'd be expensive, wouldn't it?
So right there, 90 minutes with Dr. Tom Pritchard, and it's a negligible expense. And Ron, once again, it's a tribute to Bullet Bob Armstrong, Saturday night, November 23rd in Dothan, Alabama, at the crossings at Big Creek. It's south of Dothan, down there on Highway 231. Bob has just celebrated his 80th birthday, 60 years in professional wrestling. You're going to be there, Ron, along with Charlie Platt, of course, Road Dogg, Brian Armstrong, Bullet himself be the as usual, the star of the show, and the meet and greet, videos, discussions, jokes, laughs, promos from friends and stars, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be a unique evening. Anybody in the old southeastern area, from Pensacola and Mobile all the way down to the Panhandle, come on down and see Bullet Bob and all the crew in Dothan on the 23rd.
That's it. That's the deal. And we're even going to have a special guest. I think Fannie Mae Titweiler may show up there.
Is Fannie Mae still around?
Fannie Mae is still around, I think, man. So, I think that'll be a big boost for fans too. I don't think I've ever seen Fannie Mae. I had a T-shirt made of him when we were working, and we had the angle going, and he turned heel on me. And I started back working, and he was advertising this Fannie Mae Titweiler. Every week she's done something special for me, right? So I went out to Pensacola Beach and got him to airbrush me a T-shirt of big fat Fannie Mae and flies around her face and all that. And I wore it into the ring. I didn't have it on 20 seconds. Bob saw it. He was like, "Oh, man, he had to tear it off. Oh, gosh, boy, you can't do that." It's like... So we may have Fannie Mae too in this thing. So it should be really good for fans.
You know, I heard they used to put Fannie Mae's picture in the prisons to cure the sex offenders, but I never got confirmation on that. So maybe we'll find. That's one of the questions we can ask Bullet Bob on November 23rd. But anyway, all right. Thank you, Ron. We appreciate you stopping by. I feel like Tennessee Ernie Ford now running his old variety show. We appreciate you stopping by, neighbor Ron. And now here's Cousin Arthur with the news. And anyway, we'll talk to you soon, and everybody will be listening to the Studcast.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.